Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Rice Report. I appreciate you all being here. As you know, we try to bring on as many people with as many diverse backgrounds, different ways of thinking. I love looking at all sides of the equation. I think it's one of the things that's made me successful, and every successful person gets away from their echo chamber and looks at different points of views. And our guest today, Jonathan Gilliam, has a tremendous background, former Navy SEAL, former FBI agent, and we're going to get into why it's former. Great views on what's happening right now. An author, he wrote Sheep No More. He has his own podcast called The Experts, where he's bringing people with actual backgrounds, real world experience to be able to explain what's happening in the world today. And Jonathan, we are just so pleased to have you on here. Thank you for making the time.
Oh, it's good to be with you. I think there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of hope in this country right now, and I think it's gotten to a point where it's almost false hope, good hope, but also their expectations are tremendously huge, and I think there needs to be conversations about reality now.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, most people right now, like I personally, I'm a huge Trump fan, love him, but I also understand he's a politician, right? So, and I understand that he is surrounded by other politicians that don't care about my financial future, my family's health, any of those things. So I'm expecting big changes in this country. And to me, it feels like Monday, you know, we're filming this on the 18th, on January 20th, it feels like the Berlin Wall is coming down.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we've been through this in markets, right? Irrational exuberance. America may be in some form of irrational exuberance, expecting too much of a man who already had a term where he did tremendous things, but nowhere near what he wanted to do. And I think he's going to face the same hurdles, less this time. I think he has more support, and that's good. But some of his appointees, people have questions about, and you just did a great interview recently about Kash Patel. So before I get into Kash, explain to us, you know, I had Louis Gohmert on the show. We were talking about the FBI, and he told me something about the FBI that blew my mind. That essentially they were taking guys out of the field, the experienced guys out of the field, putting them in desk positions for 5 years before they retire. So basically every FBI agent, even if they wanted to remain in the field, still had to get moved up and put into bureaucracy so that new guys could replace them in the field with less experience. Is that something you went through while you were there?
No, I didn't last. I was there for 8 years and then I got out. So, but that's called KIA, KMA. That's what that's called. So, and you can figure out what that's when you're getting close to retirement and they guys go out of the field. So I love Louis. Louis is one of my favorites. We both used to host Hannity, and I've had many conversations with Louis, all of which have come to fruition. His insight never let me down. I mean, we had private dinners after hosting or being a guest in New York. He was just remarkable, the insight that Louis has and all the things he's done. So I think that overall he's a good guest to listen to. But I will tell you, let me go back to my train of thought here. I think that when it comes to the Bureau and the rank and file, that was the word I was looking for, the rank and file people, there's systems within these agencies that I don't think most people understand unless they've worked in these agencies. And that's what I was saying about Kash Patel, is that I don't doubt that Kash is smart enough to get in there and manage the Bureau. I don't think that that's going to be a problem for him, and to get rid of the people at the top that are the problem makers. The problem with that, though, is that these federal agencies have a much larger issue that is systemic, that has less to do with the leftists. The leftists have used these issues to get themselves into positions, but the problem is careerism, and it is the fact that federal agencies punish those who are the best, those who think outside the box, those who go much harder. It reminds me and I'm long-winded, so bear with me on these things. When I was young, and I grew up in Arkansas in the Ozarks, and in a place called Yellville, Arkansas. And I remember in junior high, I went out for basketball and made the basketball team, but I was very, very small. And I remember the coach saying, whoever shows the most effort in our practices are the ones who are going to get to play. And I believe that. but see, I grew up with my mom telling me that whatever you want to do, you can do. You just got to give it the effort and believe in yourself. So I practice harder than anybody. And I didn't get to play because I was little. I didn't have the talent, the raw talent, and physical attributes that that real basketball players that are successful needed. And I didn't have a big name. I mean, I come from a very poor family. So I think those things in a small town kind of play against you. Even though we do line drills, I'd be first. I would put out more effort than anybody else because I had in my mind, if you do that, you're going to be the star, right?
Mm-hmm.
That effort means something. And it didn't mean anything. Now, in the Bureau and in all these federal agencies, they hire people based on resumes because it reminds me of grifters where they want to hang out with very successful people and they themselves are not that successful, but they latch on to people who have great resumes and then they go around and show them off. Yeah. And that is what the Bureau kind of does is they hire Harvard grads. You know, I was a SEAL and a former cop, so I came in there was a military program. And so that's how I got in there. But a lot of the people were hired based on their resume, not their experience. And so what you end up having is people that are going in the FBI because they're careerists, not operators. And also with these other agencies. And so you take the people that, like I was in basketball practice who gave all this effort, showed that they're operationally sound, that they can make good decisions in a tactical environment or smart enough to come from nothing and become something. And then they stick those people with individuals who have 3 years work experience and a college degree, because that's the minimum. And they have a degree from Harvard and they worked in a law firm for 3 years. Or, you know, one girl, female, had worked for a beer company and had a degree in something. I think it was finance. And somehow
wait, Jonathan, you just gave yourself away. You said a girl who's a female.
Well,
you're clearly a right-wing extremist.
Yeah,
You're a domestic terrorist.
Here's why I said that is because in the military we call them females, not girls, because we don't want to call, like, they'd be like calling somebody a boy versus a male. So I try to take all that stuff out of it. So not a pronoun issue. This is an issue of respect, I guess you could say. So we had a female, and she worked for a beer company, driving a beer truck, and had a degree in something that they needed. So they gave her, so she came in. Funny enough, she was better than most of the people that I knew that had Ivy League educations, that had, you know, went from Ivy League to working as some type of advisor at a high level, which is strange to me that that would occur, and not work their way up so they could take that incredible degree and get this incredible experience so they can make incredible decisions. And that's not the way it works with these people. So anyway, you get back to the Bureau, and those people that don't have the experience hate the people that do have experience. And so, you know, people that have an education don't want to hang out with crack addicts, and crack addicts don't want to hang out with people with education because they make them look bad. I always use that phrase. And so
about Hunter Biden? Is this
the Bureau is full of these. So the Bureau is full of these people. And I know I'm kind of going a roundabout way, but what you're going to see is how this stuff really works. So the people who put out effort, the people who are competent, the people who show up and try the hardest are the people who get pushed to the side in the Bureau and in most of these federal agencies. And if you say, I know this, they will say, go stand over there. We're not really interested, because they're not interested in you knowing more than they do. And so that has been going on for a long, long time. I don't know actually when it started. I would probably say that it probably started around the time that Bill Clinton came in office, because affirmative action really did kick this to an extreme where people were promoted based on checking a box, rather than their understanding, experience, and knowledge on a subject, right? So that's probably where this started. And then when 9/11 happened, those people excelled because it was a very fast response to create counterterrorism and the counterterrorism division, all these different things that went along with counterterrorism. And strangely enough, they skipped over the majority of the criminal investigators and took people who were supervisors from terrorism then, which wasn't really, it was people that were, they didn't get along with people, or they weren't good at criminal investigation, so they'd stick them over there. And so all these people came over and were all of a sudden promoted to these huge ranks, and they brought people over with them. And when you put those types of people at the top, they crush anybody around them that tries to tell them, well, it should be done this way, or we should look at it this way because this is the way it works. Not the way it's been done all the time, but this is the way investigations work. And they didn't want to listen to that. So the criminal investigators went away from terrorism, and these other people rose. And so as you go through the years of Clinton, the 8 years, those people rose to the top. Law enforcement, you had people that were being chosen because of the color of skin or their gender or whatever, and they got rid of operators that were effective in law enforcement. Military the same way. George Bush, 43, came in, and he didn't get rid of any of these people. He didn't purge the system. Nope. And so those people made more rank. And then, and for his 8 years, that's why we had a worthless war in Afghanistan and Iraq. And that's why drugs went crazy. The border went crazy. Obama comes in. He is one of these incompetent people. Yes. And it got worse and worse and worse. So when Trump came in, you had the careerists and you had the leftists that own the federal government. So the issue now is that if Trump takes Kash Patel, and Kash Patel has never been at that level. Kash Patel went from, college and working as an appointed attorney, a defense attorney that was appointed, a state appointed attorney, I think is what he was. Yes. And then he went to work for he went to work for the Department of Justice in a tier 1 area. So he had a lot of he made a lot of friends, and he was able to get some experience. And then he worked for Nunes. Nowhere in there did he gain the experience and understanding of this system that builds mafias within these agencies. And so now what you deal with are the careerists who are incompetent, the leftists who are on an agenda to destroy this country by lawfare. And you have people such as SWAT team members who, when they get in a position of supervisory position or above, they stack the ranks with their buddies. And they all think in the Bureau and in law enforcement in general, SWAT thinks that they're just way better than everybody else.
Sure.
And the reality is they get 2 weeks of training and some gear, and they don't have even the remote experience most of the time that your regular patrol officers or ground agents in the Bureau have. So they get in a position, they stack the ranks. A lesbian or somebody who is a leftist gets in a rank, and they stack the ranks on them. I say a lesbian because there's a thing called the lesbian mafia within the Bureau.
Heard about this. Yep.
Because they stack the ranks with people who see eye to eye with them. So
there's a funnier name for it on the street, but I won't say it on my podcast.
So there's the problem, is that if Kash comes in, if whoever takes over the CIA, I forget who that is, or the ATF or the DEA, the problem is if they individually try to restructure and revamp their agencies, and there's no justice czar or restructuring czar, which I think needs to happen, then you're going to have the same thing as if they built some wall here and some wall there on the border. You're going to have these porous locations where people can still come in that have these agendas. You have recruiters that are still going to recruit them, and you're still going to have people at middle rank that are going to hibernate for 4 more years and then come out of the woodwork, depending on who gets in 2028. So there has to be a systematic investigation into all these agencies to find similar vulnerabilities and issues, and then individual issues and vulnerabilities. And then there needs to be a systematic purge across the federal government to get rid of these people and these policies. If they don't do that systematically, then in 4 years, when Trump leaves, you're not going to see an overall fix. It's going to be a temporary fix.
Sure.
Just like if, when he started to build the wall in his first presidency, and then he left, there was no wall. So you can do what you want to get rid of deputy directors and change some things and get rid of DEI, but those people are already in there, and they're very obscure in their locations if they're not at the upper echelon. So that basically is where my issue is with Cash or any of these other people, is that it's not them. It's the fact that I can hear their verbiage. They are not mentioning any of this. And the reason they're not is because they never worked their way through the ranks. I do not believe in taking somebody who's not worked their way up and putting them in a position of authority over these agencies. Tom Homan is an example of how it should be. He's been a cop. He's
from the bottom up.
Wolf, what's his first name? Chad Wolf is an example of somebody who's opposite of that. Nice guy, I guess. I've never met him, but he has no experience in any Homeland Security stuff. He went to college. Kristi Noem, but Kristi Noem was a governor, so maybe she can manage Homeland Security better. But I think we're in a position where it goes beyond managing. You need somebody who understands the mission and these mafias, and they need to be able to clean and change based on what the mission is. And
the good thing about Cash is that, his book Government Gangsters, so he's definitely studied these things. And if I were him, I wouldn't, before I'm appointed at all, I wouldn't mention any of this either. Right. I would want these people to be cushy and comfy, going, all right, we'll weather Cash for 4 years. We'll weather Trump for 4 years.
Right.
Because human beings are carriers. Right. So if you're of ideology, of virus, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that you can get rid of people, but it's difficult to get rid of ideologies. And ideologies have to expose themselves in order to be removed. And I think that that's probably going to be part of the process. But what's your overall feel with Cash? I know that some of your other interviews, you've talked in detail about these mafias that are entrenched in our law enforcement. And I think everyone sees it now. 5 years ago, no one really questioned, CIA, FBI, they're on our team, because there's TV shows everywhere telling us they're on our team.
Right.
They're not on our team. They're not on Team American Citizen.
And so here's where, I watched the Vince McMahon special series on Netflix, and then I also watched several things on Trump, and then I've watched Trump, over the years. I've always been a fan, even before Sean Hannity. I know they're close friends. Even before Sean started supporting him on his radio show, I was supporting him. I'm probably one of the first people you ever saw on any major news network or on radio that was saying, I think Donald Trump should run because he has operational experience and he's failed and then came back and rebranded and succeeded. When I watched the Vince McMahon special, though, I think that these two guys are the exact same person in a lot of ways, right?
Very resilient humans. Yeah.
Resilient, but they're promoters, and they know how to use negative and positive attention for capital gain, no matter what, right? And they start some of these things that end up being negative, full well knowing that it is going to work to their advantage, because people are going to continue to. It reminds me of Seinfeld when George Costanza did the Costanza, and then it got into people's heads. So Trump knows this.
It failed on his T-Bone episode, though. He failed on branding himself as T-Bone.
That's right. So that's interesting you say that, because Vince McMahon when he tried to do the football league, it failed miserably because it was outside of his wheelhouse and he didn't know football and he didn't know football fans. He knew wrestling fans and he knew wrestling and he knew the storylines that went with that. Well, football wasn't interested in the storyline. He tried to put that in there. It didn't work. So if we look at President Trump, I see the same guy, the same promoter. And when he looks at things, he's looking at it from the perspective of the overall picture and how this can promote, and putting Cash Patel in there, and we can do these things that are going to rock the boat, and that's a storyline, and
Sure.
that's how he continues to promote himself and do good things at the same time. And remember, I'm not putting Trump down for this, but where the shortfall lies is the same with Vince McMahon and football, is that the way Trump works sometimes does not work when it comes to purging and warfare within the federal government. And if I was looking at Cash, I would have said, no, I don't want Cash as the FBI director. I want him as this justice czar, or what was the word I used a minute ago for this reorganization czar, yeah. Right? Because he does see, he's very good at understanding the situation as an attorney who's an investigator. He's good at taking all the pieces and putting these together. And he's not afraid to say something that is a little conspiratorial.
Yeah.
Right. So
most of which is now reality, right? That's
yeah,
kind of where we are.
You're right. And so I think in a lot of ways, Cash is going to be wasted in the Bureau. And that is, and so I think the Bureau is a piece of the larger puzzle that has been broken, and they need a master puzzle maker or puzzle putter together, whatever you would call that. I know
the assembler.
They have a whole game now, or a whole like Olympics thing where they put puzzles together, and I think they need that. And if it wasn't going to be Cash, it needs to be somebody else. But that's where my problem is in a nutshell. When you look at this whole overall realm of these agencies, and the problem that really is systemic, it's not just leftists. It's not just people who hate Trump in America. It is careerists. It is the cultivation of supervisors that hate people who are really good and really try. It's the incompetence that promotes incompetence, and it's supervisors that are pulled up, not ones that climb up. DOD is the same way.
Yeah, that upward mobility for failure in our government and all of our agencies is just ridiculous. Now, another question I got to kind of bring up is the agencies themselves, right? So we had I think it was the Chevron deference, the EPA versus West Virginia, which pretty much removes the power of a lot of the executive order 3-letter agencies. Do you see that being a possibility moving forward? Because just because a court case is ruled, one thing in America that we know for sure is that just because a law is made doesn't mean they're going to follow it. Like, what do you think will happen with these three, right? So these 3-letter agencies are still going to be here. I don't see how they evaporate. Some of them, of course, but.
Right. So there's that, what you just pointed out can cause a president to fail, or they can cause an agency that wants to enforce things that they're not legally able to force, to be able to force it. Right. So I guess you could say, these supervisors and these higher echelon people. So now we've gone from the rank and file to these upper echelon people. They are the ones who can stagnate a presidential policy. Like this happened to Bush all the time. He would say, I want Homeland Security to do this. And they just wouldn't do it. And they would get it tied up in this or that, or make excuses, and it never got done. And so that's part of the problem is that those people can stagnate these reforms. The other problem is that, like the ATF, they can go outside of the law, make their own policy, and enforce that. And there's no legal. And if you go up against them, they just arrest you.
Yeah.
Right.
The EPA is the worst. I don't think people realize how bad the EPA is. They literally just make up environmental laws on their own with no approval, no vote. And then every businessman in the country gets extorted for capital for the next 25 years until someone finally takes it to the Supreme Court.
Look at California. All these homes are burnt down.
Yeah.
Well, the excuses they use is because that little fish or whatever that thing is. The reality is they're just incompetent leftists, but there's always a plan behind what they do. But I think what you hit on there is that this is where getting rid of deputy directors. Trump put this new guy who was guarding him in charge of Secret Service. Okay, I understand that because they build a loyalty together. But this guy's still from the Secret Service. And I would take this guy out and do a tactical test with him. I would send that guy's going to be a director down to development group, or Delta Force CAG. And I would say, you guys run this guy through a series of tests to see what he actually knows. And if he doesn't know it, get him trained up on it. Because if he was trained under the same tactics as the rest of the Secret Service, and he failed, I believe that guy failed that day when Trump got shot in the ear.
100%. Yes.
That they didn't get him off the stage immediately. That was a failure. And that guy was in charge by and large of his detail. So that was a failure. That bothers me. But Rowe, he's so stupid, I forgot his name. The guy that is the deputy, the acting director now.
All these guys have unmemorable faces and names because they have unmemorable achievements. Yeah.
He's a buffoon, and he's an actor, and he's what we would refer to in the military as like a boot. He's somebody when they get out of the military still wears the boots, has the haircut, and acts like and talks like this, like he's some kind of instructor, and the rest of the world doesn't function that way. And he's also a leftist. Well, they didn't say they're going to get rid of that guy. Is he going to get pushed back to deputy director? I mean, that guy needs to be gone. And we don't know the loyalty of this guy that's the new Secret Service director. But if he doesn't get rid of these guys at the top, then they're going to continue to push the policies forward and not do the other policies that are being pushed down to them.
Yeah.
So this is the system and the way that this works. That's why when everybody says Kash Patel is going to save everything, I'm like, hold on a second. He's not going to save everything, because everything is a huge ball of twine that's been melted by a torch and hidden under gold plating. Yeah. It's a mess. And I'm not hearing the verbiage from these people coming in that shows me they understand the actual problem.
That's scary. That's actually scary, because I think part of the, again, I've said this on a few podcasts. I feel like the Berlin Wall is coming down on Monday. That was a symbolic event, right? Like that wasn't right. That didn't end communism. That was a symbolic event after it had been ended. So the country is in that state of affairs, and again, both of us huge Trump supporters, but I'm also a big supporter of expectations. And I think that right now we have parts of, especially the right, that have massive expectations of pure utopia. I support that. We also have people who are completely pessimistic and expecting dystopia. That's not out of the stretch of imagination either. We need to be flexible on both of those. I always tell people, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's the best way to live your life. And we're all going to hope for the best. But I think America, I don't know if you feel this on your show, but when I talk to people out there, I feel like they think, well, Trump's in office, Kash Patel's and head of the FBI, Pete Hegseth is here, and we got all these Avengers, right? We're already using the term Avengers. Elon Musk, who is a leftist his entire life, again, I'm a believer in Christ, and Paul was Saul of Tarsus, who slaughtered Christians, and God changed his pathway. So I don't hold anything personally against these people. But we have a lot of people right now in positions of power who are part of the problem in the past, which could be a good thing, or it could be a really bad thing. We won't know until it's over. But that caution that you're describing, this process of understanding how difficult unwinding intelligence agencies and law enforcement to get to the root problem of how we got here is a very monumental task, which will take every minute of the next 4 years, right?
It will. And you brought several things up there that are phenomenal. And I love talking to people who we've never met before. No, we've never talked before. And yet, so the nature of what you do, you're an analytical person, you analyze these things, you're also a Christian, and you're a realist. So the language you're speaking is the language that I'm speaking, and we see things very similarly. That's true wokeness as far as I'm concerned. So when you brought up the Berlin Wall, perfect example. It didn't end communism. And in fact, what it did was create a false hope, or not even false hope. It was just it was beyond hope. People thought that communism was just gone.
Right.
And we now see that it was not gone.
No.
And that
it
grew, and the oligarchs became more powerful. And where communism in relation to Russia, where that went down, the military industrial complex changed and became even bigger, because now Russia became involved in providing planes and munitions to some of our own allies. Right. So, but communism did not go away, and the world became more dangerous. And so now we have ourselves.
Communism came here after that. If you
that
really
was coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So now it's here, and it's in our Congress, and it's in, I remember screaming about this again, like 10, 11 years ago on Hannity's show, before anybody was saying communism. And I was talking about Yuri Bezmenov, and I got told that some of the stuff I'm saying is ridiculous, and I maybe shouldn't go down that road. And I'm like, it's here. Or I would go around the country spending my own life savings trying to warn people this is coming. And the very people that I sat with and talked with for years embraced Tulsi Gabbard as though she was Christ walking on water to come and save them. And so for those
who don't know, Yuri Bezmenov was a communist Russia operative, and strategist who went on multiple talk shows and explained exactly how communists from Europe and from Asia have infiltrated America, and exactly what would happen in this country, literally step by step. And he has yet to be proven wrong. I mean, if you haven't looked up Yuri's speeches and his talk show, like that 2-hour documentary about him, I don't know if anybody's seen it. You definitely need to watch it, because it's here.
Yeah.
And most people won't even look at the history. So even the Berlin Wall was created because communism expanded after World War II. That was the wall represented the wall between democracy and communism, which expanded after World War II. We lost World War II. Communism won World War II,
right,
by far. So the wall being torn down just opened up the entire West for communism. That was really the symbolic nature of it.
So, and so the other thing that you pointed out right after that about the Berlin Wall is huge, because I see this now, is that if you criticize, like just the little things that I've said today on this podcast, I have not said, by and large, I mean, Cash, I've tried to go into detail about what my issues are there. And I get hammered by the quote unquote MAGA people who deem themselves now as the rulers of what's best for this nation. And they will not. You saw this after the Berlin Wall went down and things changed. They will not question their leadership.
Yeah.
I'm a Trump. I don't know how many times I've said this. I support Trump. I've supported him for the longest, but I've never not questioned what he does. And I've never given him a blanket saying Trump is going to, I'm just going to let him go for it because he's got our best interests at heart.
Which I believe he does. I believe he does.
I do too. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to look at something and say, I don't agree with that. I don't think that person should be in, or I don't think that policy is going to work. If I go on and I say that, the vile responses I get from people unfollow me that have followed me for years and years, because they're and the way they talk to me is though I'm a nasty person myself, or that I don't know anything. And I don't know everything, but I know
you haven't done the research. That's the question I always get. Everything. You haven't done the research. Yes, I have.
Or they just say you're an effing idiot. You know, the best one is you should turn your trident in, because you're my steel trident, because you've destroyed your oath. you're a traitor, you're a rhino. I've heard people say that I'm opposition because I was
Controlled
in the FBI. Yeah, all this stuff. So, which
for the record, I have probably 5 friends who went military, FBI, quit the FBI, and hate the FBI because of what the FBI has become.
But now, if somebody finds out they're FBI, they're going to be like, ugh.
No, it's Jonathan. The thing we're going through, like we are in a tribalistic state. We have gone from a unified nation, one nation under God, right, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've forgotten what that means. We've forgotten that as a nation, to actually be unified, we can't be tribal. Tribal nations never succeed. They destroy themselves from within. We're divided on everything. So if you don't believe what I believe about this, then you must be opposition. If you don't, that's actually going from one matrix to another matrix. You have now chosen the matrix you want to be in, as opposed to the one you were thrust into at birth. Now you have this whole new matrix that is completely contradictory to the American spirit. We are all allowed to question anything. We are all allowed. I'm going to have a great discussion. I'm a Christian. I'm going to have a great debate with a Jew, right, about the difference between the two things. It'll be very adult. It'll be very exploratory and educational. But yeah, you're right. This tribalism that we have, it's in everything. You're MAGA, you're not MAGA. You have certain levels of MAGA. You're crypto, you're this coin or that coin, and you must be from the other side if you're telling me about something else. This is the most ridiculous era in human history.
That is.
And it's almost like the fluoride in the water has taken way too much into account into people's brains. And more importantly, they've completely forgotten what the Pledge of Allegiance says. They've forgotten what it says in the Constitution. Everyone has the right to their opinion. And the moment citizenry stops questioning the motives of their government, that is the actual weakest point we can possibly have where tyranny could be imposed. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Trump, but I said that right when he was elected. The very next episode, I said, listen, I love him. I support him. I believe this nation is going to be completely 180'd and turned around. It's going to take more than you think it's going to take to do that. But the moment we take our foot off the gas, just because it's him, and we stop questioning what he does, you're either here to bash a president or support a president. I'm going to support President Trump the entire time. And I'm going to support him by trying to be a consultant from afar, right? I think all of us have the ability, like what you're telling us right now, it's always been a fallacy to me that, we're going to put this guy in this position with 15,000 employees. I'm a CEO by nature. I have no idea in a company of 15,000. I do not know what the janitor's name is. It's almost impossible. So I don't know. And that janitor, if he doesn't keep the floors clean, is going to deter customers, and it's going to cost me money. So there's no way that the head or deputy director, the director, any of these people are going to have full insight. They're going to need great teams. And those great teams need to be vetted by the government works for us. We don't work for Donald Trump. But Donald Trump works for us.
Here's an important thing that people have to remember. Okay. So you just used a CEO analogy, and a CEO of a company. I own a consulting company, and we do crisis management, which incorporates security and protection and things. But I'm very careful about picking clients because first of all, I'm not concerned with being Elon Musk rich, but I am concerned with picking clients that actually want to do what I tell them they should do when they hire me to tell them, right?
Absolutely.
Which is a big problem in crisis management. People wait until they're in a crisis to hire somebody. They will do what they say initially, and then they start to ignore what they have to say because everything's okay now and we don't need to listen to that guy. So I try to pick clients that will work with me, not just pay me. And I know people, I've had a lot of guys that I work with, former detectives and stuff, and they're like, man, just shut your mouth and take the paycheck. And that's a hard pill for me to swallow. I want to do what I was hired to do and be known for that. So, but that's a CEO of a company, right? Yeah. I own the company. I go out on the road. I develop the policies. I hire the guys, the contractors to come in and then facilitate those policies. And I hire trained, excellent guys to advise me and to carry out those policies, and where they see things need to change it, and then let me know how it needs to change. Very rich people and politicians they function in a different area than a CEO. A CEO makes choices of who they want around them based and advising them based on profit and based on quality of work and marketing and sales. Bud Light made terrible choices, and look where that got them, right? They chose people based on ideology, and then their buddies, when these ideologues get in there, they choose their other buddies, and then they just tank these places.
Yep.
When it comes to politicians and rich people, of which Trump is both, they are notorious magnets for grifters and narcissists and psychopaths. And all three of those people they have PhDs in lying and making and persona modification. They're like everybody, all these conspiracy people are always talking about shapeshifters and lizard people. It's not lizard people. It's these people. That's the shifting that's going on. And so
to be fair, we don't know that it's not lizard people. All right.
Yeah, that's true. We'll keep the conspiracy theories in. But when you look at the Biden White House, it's a perfect example. You know, Biden, I saw Speaker Johnson talking about when he was asking him about shutting down the natural gas pipeline or something like that. And he said Biden didn't even know it.
The LNG terminals.
Yes. And so there's other people in the White House running this because those people are ideologues, psychopaths, narcissists, grifters. And so.
And that was the ultimate grift, by the way. I cover this on my show. I was in oil and gas when that happened. And people don't realize that was us coordinated effort with UK blowing up those pipelines to create a war. And then they shut down all those terminals so that US exporters couldn't profit by the high prices in Europe. The government did that to cover up the GDP for Biden. It was actually a really smart.
But then Russia makes money off of it.
Oh, a ton of money.
So
they doubled profits in 6 months.
So this is the problem with MAGA and these quote unquote patriots who are only patriots when it comes to a rally that Trump's going to be at or a Saturday rally where they can wave flags and go home. They really, many of these people, I would say most of them never served in the military. It's not like they're going out and helping their communities get better. The churches who preach, because I'm pro-life and they preach pro-life, but they don't do anything to help women who get pregnant, so they don't have to have an abortion. So there's, I look at all these people as like fair weather patriots, the people who are, they're patriots in name only. They're like the rich people who put on leather and ride a Harley on the weekend and walk into a place like they're, part of a Hell's Angels. What I mean? It's like, so the problem with these people is they're easily snowed by their heroes. And Trump, in my mind, is a hero. However, he's also a billionaire and a politician. So people he's never going to, unless somebody introduces me to Trump, I'm never going to get through to him and tell him, sir, you have to look at this concern. I'm not one of his consultants because he's surrounded by grifters, narcissists, and psychopaths. And people may say, whoa, hold on. Who are you talking about? Because we know all those people because they're all famous and we see them.
Right.
It's not necessarily some of those people probably are. You'd be profoundly surprised if you knew how many people are not what their persona projects them to be. But there's also a ton of other people that somehow get brought into that fold that use him as an ATM to promote their stuff, to do all these different things, which is another thing about Kash Patel that bothers me, is that he became a brand after the first administration. And that bothers me a little bit. But so
I see that side of this equation, but I also see that at that point in time, he had no job. Right?
Yeah.
Like he was out of a job and you start a business.
So
I'm a businessman. I don't mind people making sock companies. That doesn't bother me at all. But it does bother me when you leverage power to create the brand. But it's been happening since the dawn of time. When
I say it bothers me a little bit, it bothers me in a way that I have to say, okay, so that is there, right? It's not like it bothers me. I say he's a terrible person. It means that when I look at the totality of circumstances, that is there.
Yes.
Right. So now I have to look and say, is this person a grifter? Do they really know what they're talking about? Or are they just a master, a PhD in BS? Right.
Sure.
So I have to look at all of these people that way, because I'm a realist, because I'm an analyst, because I'm a warrior, and because I'm a constitutionalist.
Yeah.
So that's what people have to realize, is that if we get ourselves into a position where somebody says, hold on a second, I got a problem with that, or I got a problem with that person, and everybody says, you're now excommunicated from the church of MAGA. Well, guess what's going to happen? It's either somebody around Trump himself, or the next person is going to destroy everything, because there's no checks and balances. There's no, and it may be MAGA that destroys everything, because Hitler had to build a coalition. Mao had to build a coalition. The left had to build a coalition. Rome had to build a coalition.
Sure.
So anytime greatness, or I shouldn't say greatness, but success in power has occurred, or in riches, these people, these grifters, these psychopaths, these narcissists, these people who think they know more than they do, or they have the term general or deputy director, will, like a magnet, surround that person and milk them. And so where I think we are right now is that Trump is insulated, and then he's insulated further by the MAGA patriots, who will not let people bring up issues that they have. And if we're like that, we are going to turn into a hive mentality that is just like the left, where they can say, you know what, you should go out and punch every gay person that is out there because they're bad.
Because they're different. Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that's what anybody would ever do, but I'm using that as an example, you know.
No, you're right, because the whole process is that you, again, the MAGA, every major movement throughout human history is a response to another one. Like that's just kind of how it works. So you have this woke leftist movement that began with Clinton, right? Like we look the other way. Oh, he had an affair in the White House. He's a powerful guy. We just look the other way. You have this tolerance bred society of weak men that are like, it's cool. Have some drag queens, talk to my kids. Maybe they'll be a drag queen too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the response to that woke movement was MAGA. And they're both very, and I'm part of MAGA. So like, but I love hearing different opinions, because they need to be heard. There's a lesson to be had. The movement was created as a response to totalitarian communist left woke ideologies, very Weimar Germany beliefs. And like Hitler had a coalition of nationalists. All they wanted to do was be left alone. The story of World War II, I'll argue this till I'm blue in the face. It is not what you're told in school.
Right.
But I digress. But each movement is a response to another movement. So now we have this response to another movement that, like you said, is successful, is bearing fruit. We've won. Our guys coming in office in 2 days. But both of these two movements were designed on challenging the system.
Yeah.
Wokeism was challenging conservatism. Conservatism is challenging wokeism. We all should be challenging the powers that determine the future of our country. And that's where the unity comes in. So I think that while that's the nature of MAGA right now, so, I put stuff out there all the time. I'm like, listen, I love Trump, but the only idol I have is Jesus Christ. That's it. That's the only savior we actually have. Don't put the pressure on the man. Okay. Don't put the pressure on any of these guys. We actually need to just allow them to do their job, continually question motives of everyone in their organizations, challenge them to make them better. We've lost the mentality in America. You went to Buds. The guys in training for the Navy SEALs, are they sitting there going, you know what, Jonathan? Why don't you just do it your way? Why don't you're so good at doing this activity no, they're beating on you, saying do it our way. And then when you're doing it great in their way, they're telling you to do it better.
Right.
And that's what American exceptionalism is the ability of the American people in a free society to constantly question those that we have put in power, because even an appointed official comes from an elected official. So we are to blame. Now, our voting system is sideways at best, right? Like, I don't think our votes really count all that much. They're definitely rigged.
Which let me say this real quick. Trump didn't fix that in his first term.
No.
Right? So for all the things that Trump did great, And Trump really did keep the status quo and make life better, right? Which ultimately, he's the CEO of the country. He did a fantastic job at that.
Incredible job.
He didn't have 8 years, so he didn't get a chance to finish it. Now he'll be able to have a chance to do more. But the problem there is that people don't realize that if Trump starts focusing on the media and fighting with the media again, because that's his way of promoting. Remember, Vince McMahon, Trump is very similar. He goes out, fights with the media. The media is the bad guy. He's the good guy. And that's the way he stays relevant and loved. But I think this promotion thing should start coming to an end for the next 4 years so that he can get things done. Because if he argues with the media daily like he did before,
he's not operating. Yeah,
he's not operating. It becomes a distraction. And if the American people or those people out there that say this is a problem, right? He needs to stop this. If they can't say that, then he's not going to get legitimate support. I want legitimate leadership. He should want legitimate support. Yes. And I think the time for games is over. And I think he should focus on what needs to be done. We should focus on keeping him. We gave him a mandate. We should now focus on enforcing that mandate. Yep. And then there needs to be a systematic purge in these agencies and in society. This is where we get involved, of the left and this craziness where we say, if a 5-year-old thinks they're a girl and they have a penis, well, we should put them on hormone blockers and cut their penis off, right? We should be able to say, no, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And if you do that, if you pass a law like that, we are going to shut your city down, right? So there needs to be a shift where we purge that with our strength. And if we don't do that in 4 years, if we don't take action, it'll be the same. And if Trump gets involved in promotions instead of leadership, and some of these people turn out to be liars and narcissists and grifters and the people who are magnetized to him to convince him, this is what you need, and they end up being disasters, we're going to be in the same position in 4 years. And we should be able to say, I see that and I don't agree with it.
I agree. 100% agree with that. But I'm going to throw something out there as we wind up. You'll be surprised with MAGA. I think MAGA right now is just, it's no different than the left was 8 years ago. It's just with a different ideology. It's the same kind of nasty reaction to anything different than what you say. It's no different. And they're responding in kind. That's how warfare would work, right? You're a soldier, so you're going to respond in kind. Violence begets violence in a different way. But I think what I hope happens with Trump is I hope that more people get back to understanding that free speech, the First and Second Amendment, make America. That is America. Number one, number two. Those are the top priorities. We get back to understanding that, and Trump gets into a position where he's starting to clean stuff up, because we're looking at stage one, right? You're an operator, so you're going to have your different phases of a plan that get executed. He's starting at the top. I think those guys at the top will have a mandate. I hope that they'll be able to clean up the rest of these. It's going to take every bit of 4 years to clean up our agencies. These are really corrupt organizations. But I think what you're going to see with MAGA, going back to a different point that I agree with in the moment, is that, there's a lot of keyboard warriors. Oh, I support this and I do that. And look at this cool video I found. What have you done in your neighborhood? What have you done? Have you brought someone to Christ? Have you raised concerns at a school board? Are you helping build new community centers? Are you challenging wokeism wherever you see it? I think this coming 4 years, we're relying on Trump. But what's going to happen is I hope that Trump puts the onus on the people. I don't want Trump.
We have to be like a jury. We have to be like a jury. If you have 11 jurors who agree on something and the one juror says, I've got a problem with this, right? Then the jury will stop and they will look at that. They'll go back and forth, and eventually they'll find out, is there something here, or is this person just an ideological idiot who will not sentence this person because they feel like it's been an injustice because something happened to them, right? We need, as conservatives, as constitutionalists, as the MAGA patriots, we need to be like this, where if somebody disagrees, we need to say, okay, let's look at this. You don't sit back and berate them with the language of that Philly, the Eagles fan who berated that girl from Green Bay, set up or not. We don't need to speak to each other like that, because there's
That's
where
right.
the left differs, is that they have an agenda and they stick by that. And if somebody says something that's liberal that they don't agree with, they may, in the case of Tulsi Gabbard, get rid of her,
Yeah.
but they're not going to turn themselves into a destructive movement, because as Christ said himself, as Jesus said, and the actual quote is going in and out of my brain, but a divided house will not stand. So
Correct.
the left figured that out, and the left is evil, but they're very unified. And on the right, we may say we are righteous, but the actions that we take against each other are not righteous. You know, they're not righteous at all. You don't like Mitch McConnell. I think there's all the reasons in the world not to like him. Voice your opinion on him. Get together, vote him out. But to sit around and use the crass language against each other is just it. I find it to be, we're moving in a direction that is very dangerous, where we are going to police our own, like brown shirts from Hitler. And I don't believe that that should be the case. I should be able to go on and say, I don't dislike Pete Hegseth, but the things that were being brought up were not the typical leftist made up crap. Right. And so the totality of what was brought up that day, these people are not under oath in these hearings, which I have a real problem with. They should be under oath.
Agreed.
And the totality of what was being brought up is a problem for me. From a military standpoint, I have a very big problem, because I can't determine whether or not those things are true or not, but it's not just coming from the left. And those issues, those particular issues, are something that are a problem when it comes to leading the military, because any one of those things would get you removed from command.
Which topics? I've been working, so I didn't have a chance to watch
all the affairs, the alcoholism, the drinking problems, which he stated were smears campaigns.
It could be.
I'm not going to go into detail about what I know and what I don't know, but I will say that because somebody's not under oath, they can say it's a smear campaign when it may be true. And if these things are true and you're throwing blind support behind somebody, then you are making a big mistake in supporting somebody who could destroy everything that Trump's trying to do.
Well, that's the purpose of fifth generation warfare, right? That's exactly what we're in, is psychological warfare. And you're watching people. So we went through this whole fake news era, right? Like that was what Trump did. Everything's fake news. Then people started realizing the news is fake news. So they transition into the independent channels. And now you have fake news promoters in the independent channels, and no one knows what's what. So people look at an affinity and say, I like this person. I trust this. You shouldn't trust anyone. Right. You should trust yourself and Jesus Christ above all, and yourself. But then we have these people, well, I like Pete, or I like any of these guys. And I do too. I absolutely do. I think Pete Hegseth is great. I don't know if he's the guy I would pick for that position, but it's who Trump picked. It's who our president, who we elected, who I voted for, picked. I have to trust that decision, but I don't have to trust that person. And I probably never will, because I haven't met him. And until I look someone in the eyes and have a few hours with them, I'm probably not going to trust them at all. And that's a safe way to live. But we then think anything bad against this person that we trust and like is fake news. It's just everything. Oh, that's fake. That's misleading. That's the enemy. They're promoting it. So we've been groomed in an environment where that absolutely was the case, to never trust any bad news against the ones who exposed it.
And right? you know who groomed us? Both the left and the right. 100%. Everything Trump said was true. I've been saying this all along. Everything he said was true. However, everything that the left said was purposely done for a tactical reason. And so they do these things. The people that believe in the left are going to believe everything they say. Trump comes back and says, this is not true. This is a lie. This is what's going on. Everybody that's conservative believes what he says. And so the left handled that problem. They created the problem and split the nation right down the middle. And although the right looks at them as liars, their job wasn't to make the right think of them as good people. Their job was to split the nation. And that's what they did. That's what they did. And so
very effectively.
One last thing about this fear that I have of the next 4 years is that as Trump tries his hardest, and I understand his thinking here, to bring some of those people into the fold that are good people but lean to the left, right? And I understand he's trying to bridge that gap. The danger there is that we have 4 years to rebuild and purge this runaway snowball that is happening because of the left. And if we try to concentrate on right now, immediately incorporating people, saying, hey, it's okay, you know, we can all work together. If that is an immediate goal, then I have a bad feeling that what happened to the Tea Party is going to happen here, where they infiltrate and then ruin or take over. And that's why I don't like Tulsi Gabbard. I think Tulsi Gabbard, I know Tulsi Gabbard was at the pinnacle of DNC control. She was the vice chair of the DNC 4 years ago.
They wanted her to be the next president, the first woman president.
Some of them. But what happened was the Clinton-Biden machine was bigger than her and bigger than the people that wanted her in. And they got rid of her. And so Tulsi didn't leave the Democrat Party. Tulsi was kicked out of power. And so she chose to make this persona transformation. And so what you see is somebody who's never denounced what she believed, never denounced what she did, her voting record, the fact she stood with Bernie Sanders and Clinton at one point. I mean, it was a power struggle. It wasn't a struggle of belief. They all believe the same thing. And now she's going to be head of the DNI, of all intelligence. It bothers me because she
only denounced the Democrat Party. You're right. She only denounced the party, not any of her choices.
And there's a million other people that could have done that job. You know, a million other people that I know. People like Scott Eulinger, who was a CIA operations officer, is one of the smartest, most well-read people I've ever met in my life. That guy would have been excellent at this job, but he's not popular. He's not Tulsi Gabbard, and he hasn't snowed MAGA. Tulsi came in and is exactly what Vince McMahon was with one of his characters, and she became the turncoat on the Democrat Party and this ultra gun-toting MAGA veteran, when people don't realize she was anti-gun. And she spent her time in the military as part of civil affairs, which is trained in lying to host nations,
psychological operations,
and convincing the village elders to do things their way because they're there for their best interest. She spent a career doing that and has used the same tactics now. So there's fear here for me. It's not
healthy fear. It's healthy.
It's healthy fear. But it is rooted in the fact not that Trump is evil, but the fact that he is incredible, but he is a promoter at heart, a great leader. Like I said, I support him from the beginning because he has operational experience in leadership and failure and success. He has all those abilities, but he's also a promoter. Tulsi Gabbard is part of that promotion, and she's now in a position that's very powerful. And in 2028, if she decided to run, she could probably win. That was a mistake. I believe that was a mistake for everyone.
Well, I think that's pretty divided amongst even the MAGA crowd. Like there's half of the MAGA crowd that just whoever Trump picks, they're just all for it. And then you have the other half that are questioning. Like critical thinking is the skill that we're missing in this country. It's not tribalism. It's easy to join a tribe. Thinking critically in the middle of the crowd where you have very few friends, that's actually the most difficult stance. And I think that's what makes Trump attractive, because he was that guy standing in the middle saying, this is fake news. You guys are wrong. You're corrupt. He pointed out so much, like as far as a politician would go, I place trust in him. Very little.
I do too. And I do too.
Yeah.
I won't want anybody to think I don't. But these are issues that I think
they're huge issues to think about.
They're pushing to the real issue that could happen in two ways. One, that the government won't get cleaned up, and we'll do superficial cleaning, and the rust is there, or we'll go in and throw a couple of debugging bombs to get rid of the roaches, but never bring in a company to actually systematically take them out. And then the other problem is that, like what's happened with the housing market, where they say a house that was worth $50,000 is now worth $250,000. It's overvalued. It's fake.
Yeah.
And that is what I believe MAGA can do with some of these people that Trump puts in office, or decisions that are made, is because that house is valued at $250,000. They just think that that must be the neighborhood. It's $250,000.
Yeah.
What they don't realize is there's a game that's been played, not by Trump, but by these people are grifters. You can watch 48 Hours Mysteries and see all these people murder individuals. Those people have nothing on some of these people that are in power hitters in Washington, D.C. They are the masters at persona modification, lying, grifting, and getting themselves into positions of power with zero experience. It's phenomenal to watch from a case study.
Well, and from the perspective of just an Arkansas boy watching this stuff happen with your own eyes, I'm the same way. I came up very humble means, and I see a lot of positions of power that way. But let's transition, because we have just a couple minutes left. We run out of time. The inauguration in 2 days. What's going through your head with military experience, FBI, watching the assassination attempts, multiple attempts?
Well, I mean, my first issue now is drones, and I put my drone over there. I show you, but I have a DJI drone. I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about getting rid of those and making them illegal. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think it is. But those drones have come so far where they're very easily manipulated or changed to where they can serve as an overwatch for people who are doing something bad on the ground, or to actually carry explosives. So that's
they were weaponized 15 years ago. I was sitting in the meetings of commercializing drones for shipments going back and forth around Somalia to get rid of pirates.
So that's an issue. The fact that law enforcement does not advance and evolve like criminals do, so they're way behind the mark, to the point where they don't even put up netting where that could easily stop these things and keep them from getting in and around crowds. They don't even do that. They have no concept of mitigating that threat. Because Trump is going to do the inauguration inside and then go to that arena, now you're going to have literally millions of people roaming about in large groups in and around Washington, D.C., and it's colder than it's been in 40 years. So law enforcement is going to be trying to get warm, which means they're going to become complacent, and the people are going to be in this MAGA hysteria, and it's ripe for, backpack bomb, pipe bomb, vehicle getting in, and not in an area that's secured. It's the areas that aren't secured, and having an attack there. So that is my worry, and trying to wake people up to see this. We were just talking about this the other day, is that the news is not interested in covering this stuff.
No.
They are really not interested in covering.
It doesn't matter what side.
Warning the people. No.
Yeah.
So when I bring up the fact that drones are a big issue for me, and I show my drone on the news networks, the people that are the anchors are like, it's like I said, some kind of word on there that just, like when I got kicked off of Varney for saying,
it's like you're Democrats, all of a sudden you're Jeffrey Toobin, right? Like,
I was on Varney on Fox Business, and I said, after the second assassination attempt and all the verbiage and the fact that these directors are all liberal and leftists and praise Biden and Mayorkas, I said, it's obvious to me that based on the totality of circumstances that the Democrat Party wants Trump dead. I got my mic cut. I got pulled off the show. Yeah. And never been back on Fox Business. I've been back on Fox now, but
Fox Business only takes grifters on there anyway.
When I hold up a drone on these shows that they look the exact same way. Like, should we cut this segment? Like they are alarmed by that. And so I have a problem because it's hard to get this message out of what people should be looking at. But they could always go by Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival and read it or play it. It's 5 hours. So by tomorrow, they could buy the audiobook and listen to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, please. I have authors on here all the time. Absolutely buy Sheep No More. Watch the experts. Jonathan, thank you so much. This has been just a great conversation. We're right on time, which is very rare for me. Normally I run over about 20 minutes. Can't wait to catch up with you off camera and just kind of talk about some things that we chatted about before we got online here.
You got it.
But I think the overall kind of summary of this is that you can go blindly into any tribe you like, and you can trust the king of that tribe. In the end, you're going to be a victim of that tribe, period. We are all sovereign individuals. It's also a book I highly recommend people to read, The Sovereign Individual. We all have the ability to think on our own. Even the people who disagree with you deserve the respect of a calm conversation to figure out your differences. And sometimes you're just going to differ. And I think that in our movement right now, I think we're going to see big changes in the next 4 years. I think MAGA is actually going to get very involved in their community because the chains are off, right? We'll be able to start impacting our communities. I would advise, and I think you would do the same, for everyone in this country, especially those involved in MAGA, those involved in this conservative movement, you got to get off the keyboard. Like, you got to get involved in local areas. Even if it's just hearing someone spew something ridiculous somewhere, have a conversation. Find your faith, like get grounded in your faith, act like Christ, and the world will change. But most importantly, listen to everything. If what Jonathan on here is saying offends you, that's a good thing. It's challenging you. The way you become smarter in this country, the way you become more aware of your surroundings and everything else is by paying attention to differing opinions. That's how you verify your own. So give everyone a chance. We need to stop acting like idiots online. We definitely need to stop, attacking each other for having a differing view. Trump is not Jesus. Last time I checked, Trump and Jesus were separate people. And Trump is a human being. He's going to make mistakes. He's a conqueror. He has done tremendous things in this country. He's going to continue to do amazing things in this country. But we have to support him by being a good leader. And I'm going to summarize this with the old story of the right-hand man. Julius Caesar was well known for walking the grounds of his own palace. One day he came across a man being carried by both hands and both feet. And he said, "Where are you taking this man?" They said, "We're taking him to execute him. He was trying to break into the palace." He questioned the man. Instead of saying, "Okay, you're doing the job," he said, "What is the deal here?" And he goes, "Caesar, I know you're going to arrest me for whatever they've accused me of, but I happen to own a tavern in town that's populated completely by rapists, murderers, and thieves, and I heard them conspiring to enter the palace to steal through a crack in the wall. I was here with a bowl of plaster to seal it, trying to protect what was best for the empire." Julius Caesar looked at him and said, "Are you a rich man?" He said, "No, I'm not. I'm a poor man." He goes, "Good. Your family will not worry about money for the next generations to come, but they will never see you after this day. From here until the end of your life, you will stand at my right hand when I speak in front of 1,000,000 people, and your only job is to whisper in my ear, 'You're only a man.' If we are not the right-hand person of Julius Caesar in the new empire, then Caesar will feel that he is a god and make mistakes that will be unchangeable in the future. It is the job of the American people to stand next to people that they support and whisper in their ear, 'You're only a man,' and work together to make this nation great." So Jonathan Gilliam, thank you so much for being here today. This was a great conversation. I can't wait to see the feedback. It should be out tomorrow. We'll get it pumped up and before the inauguration. I hope everyone stays safe at the rally, at the inauguration. They stay warm in DC. Jonathan, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless this country. I look forward to having you on again sometime soon, if that's cool with you.
You got it. And listen, that story you just told, if people are walking with God on a daily basis and they are successful, they will hear that voice, that whisper from God himself will be telling you, "You're only a man. I chose you. You will be great, but you're only a man." And I think that is very poignant. And I do believe, I'll end it with this, I do believe that Trump is anointed. I believe he's in the position he's in. It's either because God wants to prolong the sanctity of this nation or because just part of the larger plan of God. But either way, I don't think anybody can say that. If you look at the story of Saul, if you look at the story of David and Solomon, I mean, you can't not see God's hand on Trump. And I
Absolutely.
think that we are witnessing something here, and it makes me feel less than a lot of the times, because I want to be, I'm a servant to the nation and to God. I want to be looked at as useful to God, and him say, you're useful. So when I watch what's going on with Trump, sometimes I feel less than, because I'm like, well, I guess I'm really not that useful, but we all are useful. But I do believe what we're seeing with Trump is, you're seeing God work.
Absolutely.
It's phenomenal. So that's the one hope I do have, is that all these people getting put in place, whether they fail or succeed, that this is all part of God's plan. And
We're just here for it, man.
And if people are offended by this conversation, then you got to go sit back and question yourself.
I agree.
What do you want? What do you just want somebody to tell you you're great and beautiful and put a filter on your Instagram so you look a certain way and live in not reality? This is reality right here. This is reality.
Absolute reality.
Yeah.
Jonathan Gilliam, Sheep No More, the experts. Come check him out. It's fantastic. Look forward to seeing you again, brother.